A very good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where and when you're watching us from. My name is Mutathio Wachira Wanyaga Mujiro wa Baria Karingithi na ngwihoka kuma ng'ongo ciothe iria ciumaga huho. Mũrĩ thayũ, thayũ, thayũ. Today is the fourth day of October, the year is 2023, and this is the 32nd episode of African Corner. We are going to be talking about rural urban migration. So, I have some friends here who will be discussing this topic with me. But before we go any further, maybe they can just introduce themselves. From Kimani.
Thank you, Ashira. My name is Kimani Wamwagina Wairimo. I'm a student at Kenyatta University. I pursue civil engineering, and I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my name is Collins. I'm a good friend of the show, and I'm happy to be back. I hope we have an interesting conversation today.
Yeah, maybe just before we get into the conversation, we can have a recap of the fun day that we were talking about. First of all, I want to appreciate everybody who turned up at Nairobi Arboretum this past Saturday. It was we had a really fun time. It was a good afternoon. So maybe you can just start with Collins. Give us a recap of how it went.
Yeah, after a lot of months of planning, our event finally came to fruition last week on Saturday. I can say we put a lot of time into it, and at the end of the day, I was not disappointed. We had fun. We went back to our childhood days. We did things we didn't know we could do. We ran, we ate, we interacted, we networked. We did a lot of things, and we learned a lot from it too. It was a great benchmark for us. We got to showcase what Oshira Speaks is to our friends and friends of our friends. And I can say it was a really good experience. I saw people doing things I didn't think they could do. And if that were a benchmark for things to come in future, you're going to have very great things. Yeah, that's it from my end.
Kimani, will itufanyisha the scavenger hunt. Maybe for somebody who's watching and don't know what a scavenger hunt, maybe you can just what's a scavenger hunt and tell us how it went.
Okay. Yeah, it's good that you started me on that topic because that's what I wanted to talk about. So basically, a scavenger hunt is a game where you solve continuous riddles, where one riddle takes you to the other. And as the person who designed the scavenger hunt, it's that fun day. I want to say I enjoyed myself designing the scavenger hunt and also watching people solving clues. I'm saying this on a very light note. Washira Speaks, we say we want to empower people and to do some mindset shifting. I think we are a long way from there. Anyway, the riddles were quite interesting. I saw people putting real effort. The team that won, I would say it was fairly nice. Though people were doing much running than enjoying the riddles themselves, but I'm sure it's because most people are not quite familiar with what a scavenger hunt is. So maybe the next time do such a thing, it should be more interesting. Yeah. It was interesting seeing people trying to thinking and thinking within and outside the box. It was quite a day.
Yeah, it is indeed a long way for us to shift the mindset of people and empower them. Because you remember the other time when we were doing the trivia, I think I overestimated some people's intelligence. I don't know. I don't know if you felt that also in Scavenger Hunt, but all in all, it was good. I can see Jeff Miner saying it was a great one. I don't miss the next one. Yeah. So if you missed that one, hopefully next time when we're doing another event, you'll turn up. For those who are around Amar in the country. So today we're talking about rural urban migration, and you see, this conversation has been there. People have been talking about tangu tukue. I think in primary we have been having this issue from social studies, rural urban migration, and it has been one of the effects. I don't know reasons to explain some certain things. Rural urban migration, poverty, rural urban migration. Yeah. Mtu vienyeji. The story of kienyeji Promax, rural urban migration. So maybe you can just Kemani, rural urban migration. What is this? What do you understand by that?
According to me, I'll give a quick recap. I come from Nyandarua, a place called Kinangop, North Kinangop for that matter. So I remember when I was around in class 4, and for the years before that, the first school, no, I think the second school that I attended, it was a public school. It was called Mwihoko Primary School. So that school used to host trips. We used to call them tours, trips to take students to go and see things, and we used to call it tour ya Nairobi, like trip ya kwenda Nairobi. Like we were very fascinated by the idea of going to town, seeing the tall buildings, and just getting that fascination of going to a town. And I think that fascination is exactly what drives rural urban migration, when people are old, they are grown up, they're in school, they have finished school, they're looking for
But
jobs.
Kimani, in the Kenyan setup, I think it's also
Yes.
good we can tell the people that it's not only Nairobi. Rural urban migration. I know Collins might talk about coming from Shamahoho all the way to Kakamega town. It's a rural urban migration.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so it's really about the fascination of town, and I wanted to point out that fascination we had as kids, I think it is still there. I think it's still among the factors that drive people who come to who move from their rural areas to the urban areas, for several reasons. I think that's what rural migration is. Rural urban migration is to me. But I'd like to hear maybe your thoughts and Colin's thoughts about their first encounter with with that app.
Let us hear Collins' thoughts first before I say mine.
I'm shocked, Chris, that people in your village come to Nairobi because of fascination. Uh, anyway, as for me, I think rural to urban migration is movement from a place where the means of income is primarily agricultural to a setup where agriculture doesn't take a central role, for example. For example, in Kinangop, you're famous for Mawarus, even though you don't like us mentioning it. So you come from Mawarus to Nairobi, where people do other sorts of businesses. They are not farmers per se. So for me, that's rural to urban migration, not coming from Shamahoho, like Derek has said, to Kakamega town. It's coming from a place where the means of income is primarily agriculture to somewhere where it's built multifaceted, where you have businesses, you have schools, better healthcare, and those sort of things. I don't think people come from rural areas to Nairobi because of fascination. It's the intricacies of life that drive us here. I believe, Chris, you're not here because you're fascinated of Nairobi. There are other reasons that brought you here.
Maybe, Collins. Maybe he's here because he's fascinated with Nairobi. We don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe indeed. I can see team Mabango saying that ati mambo ya Shamakoko ni wachie watu wa Shamakoko. You see, kwanza team, I know that is your place. I don't know where. Anyway, so yeah. Collins, when you are saying okay, it's indeed there. I think that from that point of perspective, that makes sense. But kitu moja I've realized in this country, most of the people look at rural urban migration. When they think of rural urban migration, they're just thinking from those other parts of the country to Nairobi sana sana. And yeah, basically, as Collins has said it, I think that's what we can define as a rural urban migration, from more of an agricultural, enye watu wengi wanasemanga mtu ametoka huyo ametoka ni mshamba ama ni ametoka ushago soto to an urban area. It can be anywhere, not necessarily Nairobi. Inaweza kuwa Nyeri town, Kakamega town, Eldoret, Nakuru, wherever. So we have even had there's a negotiation that they want to declare Eldoret a city. So sijui kama wale watu wa Kapsabet or Fafaro there, they'll be going to an urban setup when they are going to Eldoret. Yeah, so It just varies with how you look at it, but I think the best way to explain it is, coming from an agricultural kind of, way of living to Nini. But this topic, it's not really an issue that people might think in affect. It affects us a lot. But Kemani, if you think of rural urban migration, you're only thinking of income and all that. But what about these other factors? The example the other day we were talking about climate. Hii mambo ya rural urban migration, maybe with the issues of climate, for you, where does it touch you? Like when we say rural urban migration, do you think it's even a necessary topic to have in the first place?
Yeah, I think the topic about rural urban migration is quite a critical topic for people to have, because you see, as you know, Collins' description of rural urban migration was very correct. It's people moving from areas where the basic means to earn to make income is through agriculture. So the higher the rate of rural urban migration, that means the less population of people who are back in the farms, producing food that people need to consume, and not only the people who are in the cities, but also the people who are actually in the villages. Yeah. So when I remember there's this primary school teacher who used to say, who used to, when you talk about rural urban migration, he used to mention that. One of the disadvantages is leaving the old and people who cannot actually do actual farming in the rural areas to the expense that the production of food sort of decreases. And I think that is the worst effect of rural urban migration, where the able-bodied people ourselves rush to cities to do white collar jobs, but regardless of the job that you're doing, you still require to eat. So if at all there are not enough people who are doing agriculture back there, that's not quite a good thing. I know. I would like to hear perhaps if people have, if you two have other effects. Like what do you think is the worst effect of rural migration? I'd like to hear from colleagues. For me, it is on the agriculture side, because we all have to eat. Like that is not negotiable. We all have to eat.
Even at a Chris, before we get to like at the effects, look at it this way. Many people are coming, and for me, let me take it for granted that when we say rural urban migration in Kenya, we are talking about from other parts to Nairobi. So you hear people saying, "Hey, I'm going to the city so that I'm going to the Nairobi so that I can make it." As in the dreams, like people normally say, "Hey, the land of the dream." Come as the way you hear people saying in US they are going to the I don't know the country of what. So even before you get to the effects, abu angalia like in a real life, in real day life, unasikia mse ametoka maybe wherever they are coming from, they're coming to Nairobi. For them, they have come here to kind of make a living, but more so the life, like they are not really textbook like ati useme. Kwa kweli watu wengi wanafikiria, apart from the thinking like hataki kulima, he doesn't want to do this. Many of them come to try and chase their dream here. And unapata sasa that one draws an effect, like maybe to get back to your question, you find sasa the energy that was needed in the farms. To be honest, we don't have farms actually, or large plantations here in Nairobi. So it is like that time of the slave trade. A lot of people who are capable of doing this work in the land. Sasa umesema we are leaving the old women and men and the old people ushago, and many people are coming to Nairobi. People who can even be better in, not only physically, but even their skill sets are a little bit high. So unapata you get there ushago, and for example, where my grandmother stays, you go and see the demographic of that place. It's only old people, and you look at them, and they are walking at a distance to go and till the land, and you assume, what if this were just a population of young guys? Maybe we'll be having a different story.
Yeah, like I recognize maybe Collins should first. I'll be brief so that Collins can also make his point. I recognize that of course, people come to cities because there are more opportunities. Generally, cities tend to have more job opportunities or other income opportunities than rural areas, because you're looking at it that way. You live in here in countries like the US, people moving to Hollywood or other cities, trying to make it, like you're saying. So I think it is more to do with the opportunities. But the truth is, the opportunities will not always be there for someone. So you'll always find a significant number of people who are in urban areas who technically, yeah, they came to follow their dreams, but their dreams are really not there. Yeah. For, for instance, the other day I was thinking about the process for acquiring simple vegetables when you're in Nairobi. Yeah. So when you're in Nairobi, you can go to the local kibanda and get your vegetables. The person who is selling you those vegetables, they are likely, let me talk of Gwendani, they are likely to have gotten them from Githurai, and the person who is selling to them at Githurai is likely to have bought them from a rack jobber. These people who fly from rural areas with their vehicles and bring vegetables to the city, and that person now actually bought that from the farmer. You see that stream of opportunities is the opportunities that people are trying to chase, but at the very base, production, there are not enough people to be doing whatever they're doing. So yes, people come to the city for opportunities, but the truth is, the opportunities are not always there for people.
Okay.
Yeah, like Chris has said, people moving from rural areas to urban areas. He said it reduces our food production, but I don't think that's only tied to people moving away from there. Because if you look at developed nations, for instance, let's take USA for example. You look at the state of Iowa, for example. It has a very low population, but it's very big on agriculture. So I don't think we are at a point in our lives where agriculture is tied to the number of people living within an area, because right now a lot of agricultural systems are very mechanized. So you don't need 1,000 people to farm 1,000 acres. So looking at it that way, people moving to urban areas is a blessing in disguise, because the pressure on the land is reduced, and with machinery at hand, you can be able to till larger areas of land. And I think we are past that point of farming for subsistence, because Chris, I could farm for 1,000 years for subsistence, and in that 1,000 years, if we were to calculate the amount of money I would to get from agriculture in my rural area, it will be a very small amount. So you're looking at the economies of scale. Uh, it's not such a bad thing in essence, because it creates land for us to do our agriculture. And then again, you know, migration from rural to urban areas, it's not only tied to fascination, it's a rational decision. You know, you have to make a living. Maybe in future you'll have kids, for instance. And where you come from, for example, the land has been subdivided to such a point that you could maybe get, if you're lucky, say an acre of land. And if you're to till an acre of land, Chris, I don't know how many hours you'll have to work to take care of your family. So that's what drives us to move to urban areas. Yeah, that's my point.
You
That's
see,
my take
that
on it.
Collins, I think hapo when you're talking about okay, you don't need 1,000 people to till 1,000 acres. But you still need some people either way. Me, I want you guys to look at this, appreciate this point. Like many people who are coming from the rural to urban areas, sana young people, young people full of energy, full of knowledge, full of, think about it. Now, either way, you need people to who I think, okay, comparing the old people to the young people, it's better off where young people are, because even if their machineries are there, and then let us be alive to what is happening in this country. Okay, Iowa, that might be the state, but Sasa, my grandmother is in a place called Gobet. You guys, did you see any machinery there? So if the guys who call Morio, that place are not, they're coming all the way from that place to Nairobi. You see, then that doesn't make sense,
But
And
it's a,
okay, go ahead.
it's a balance between making a living and getting food. Uh, Those people will stay in their rural areas, for instance, but at what expense? You know, you have to make a living out of it. So if I farm, and agriculture at the moment in our country is a shaky sector, because you plant this thing and then after 3 months they've imported 1,000 bags, 1,000,000 bags. So it's very hard to make a living from it. So that's what drives us to come to Nairobi. We could stay in our rural areas, but it's a very volatile market. Because, for instance, Chris, you could plant 1,000 acres of potatoes, or say 20 acres of potatoes, and then some shady businessman from somewhere goes to the border with Uganda, imports those 1,000 bags and sells them at half the price. So you have to make a living at the end of the day, and for that to happen, you have to come to the city.
Then
Yeah.
why the city? Why the city? Why you know? Okay, there are some circumstances that will allow you to. Okay, okay. For example, now people are coming to the city. You know, you have had this msemo that ati Kenya wewe ulikuja Nairobi by bus, you know. Ama ati kwanza remember back in some people in campus they know say wewe ni shule tu imekuweka hapa, once school is done or watu wagome hivi you disappear. You know, Kimani.
Yes, I think you're raising a very good point because you see, I wanted to ask that, you know, when you're talking about rural urban migration, are we considering the people who come to, you know, there are various reasons for moving. There are people who actually relocate from the rural areas to come and, you know, live in Nairobi. I do not know where someone would find such courage. Yeah. And then there are, you know, students, you know, who find themselves attending, you know, like people have come for education purposes. Yeah. So you
But they
usually
don't go
find
back. Is that not rural urban migration?
yes, yes, it is in this sense that that person has stayed throughout the education in that city. They sort of become incorporated into that city. They find a job there, a house, and they continue living there. No, but I think the biggest percentage of this is people who actually who actually relocate, choose to relocate from wherever it is they come from, and decide to come to Nairobi to chase to come and chase their dreams. And I honestly don't think I would have such courage because you see, in as much as Collins is talking about mechanization, I do not know. Perhaps there's mechanization in certain productions, maybe maize, yeah, and maybe wheat, but in the production of these small you know, goods, vegetables, waru, nyandarua, peas, and these are the small you know, crops. Mechanization is quite difficult, and so you realize that whatever it is that is provided in the market is the surplus of subsistence farming. Yeah, like people generally plant those crops for their subsistence use, but then they sell the surplus to gain profit. Yeah, so you realize that since it is a subsistence business, the whole issue of hiring labor is not technically fair. So it is the actual people who are there who are doing the labor. So when a family with 5 kids and you know, all of them disappear, you find that the mom and the dad left there cannot till that land anymore, and that is quite a big percentage of people in specifically. I'll talk of specifically the central region. Yeah. So you find that the land that is left there is you know, like roles are reversed. The people who are in the city are the ones who are sending their parents money home to buy food, and it does not make sense. Like
Yeah, but that scenario has
you
been happening, and you're just wondering. I don't know.
yes,
There's some time back, but it was post-COVID, I think. You were looking at people going to town, Nairobi, and they're sending food to their people. Like, you wonder, is it not supposed to be the other way around, actually?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you wonder, you know, you wonder what is happening, and the simple reason is the people who are doing the farming have disappeared, and the old people can no longer farm. So most of them either choose to plant trees, or they decide to rear cattle because cattle does not require actual tilling of land, and when enough of those subsistence surpluses are no longer there, of course there will be quite a dip in the supply of crops, and yeah, some shaky business, some shady business people are bound to import potatoes from Zanzibar and Uganda. But my question is, how watu wanakuza potatoes in Uganda? How do they grow them to afford to sell them at half the price we are selling them?
I think that's where the government. I think that's where the government comes in and issues of policies and all that. I don't know. Maybe if Tim can tell us the issue of policies. I don't know. I don't understand how it is so cheap. As in, imagine you import almost I don't know how many tons of maize all the way from Brazil. You can imagine even the logistics that is there, but it still gets to Kenya. Another logistics to go like to northern parts of the country, like not even north. Let's go west. Maybe maybe west, yeah, go the lower land, and you find it is still cheap. I don't understand how that happens. But also, as we are also having this discussion, have you guys thought about? I have a friend of mine who studied in Masinde Muliro in Western, but eventually he after he graduated and he came and eventually came to Nairobi. So he actually migrated, if I can use that word, rural urban migration. I don't know. Okay, is Kakamega? Okay, I don't want to get into problem, but he came all the way to Nairobi and he started his life here now, and he's working here. What about those people? I think we have looked at the conversation mainly on agriculture, but what about these other reasons? For example, kama huyu msee mwenye amekuja kuchase dream yake, I don't know why people's dreams don't go waendangi kwa shamba, wanaenda kwa shamba kufanya vitu zingine. But what about those guys?
I think it makes sense for them. Wasira, I believe you are a philosopher and a very good one at that point. But if you were to try and make a living out of philosophy in your village in Gobet, I'm sure you'll end up bankrupt or something of that sort. I'm an engineer, and if I had to go to my village and ask for a job, the best I could get is a petrol station attendant. Chris, I don't know the case for you in Kinangop. Maybe you could be building canals there and be in charge of irrigation, but opportunities for us are very limited in rural areas. They call Nairobi the green city under the sun. This green, not only in terms of nature, but also in terms of opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities within Nairobi. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me about the amount of money that circulates within Nairobi in a day. He said something around 36 million shillings, but I don't think that's the accurate figure. But in my village, I don't think it has reached even an eighth or a quarter or a hundredth of that amount. So if you're in a place where 36 million shillings circulates within a day, the chances of you getting 200 shillings in Nairobi are greater than they will be if you're back in your village. So yes, there are very many opportunities in Nairobi compared to our villages, and that is what drives us to come to Nairobi. Like they say, mtu akikuja Nairobi, it's like they've made it in life because Nairobi is associated with success. So in me chasing my success, I believe coming to Nairobi will play a very big part in it. So I think your friend was very right to come to Nairobi in
You
trying
see,
to look for greener
Collins,
pastures.
okay, what you're saying is true, but sasa you want to tell me who is going to develop a Manulia if you don't want to go back and develop the place? But then I
Actually,
understand, wanasemanga Kemani, wale watu wenye wako Nairobi, when you go to events, you hear that tent, hiyo choo, ni ya watu wa
it's not
Nairobi.
Hiyo soda.
Yeah.
Before Collins answer that question, I want to pose a more serious, but not better. I want to add to that question. Yes, it is completely true that it is easier to make 200 shillings in Nairobi, Collins, because the opportunities are there. But let's not think about making that 200 shillings. Let's think about what that 200 shillings can do for you. I think we can all agree that 200 shillings can do more in a rural area than it can do for you in Nairobi. Yeah. So basically, if at all money is a medium of exchange to do things, then that 200 is more effective in the rural areas. Anyway, that takes me back to my original point. people come to chase opportunities, but the truth is, opportunities will not always be there for everyone. And people realize that way later, and they move back to their rural areas very disappointed. Anyway, that's a sad state of life that we cannot avoid. But the, to add to answer part of the question Washira asked before about, I also asked that question about why prices hike during, prices do not match. Like, someone is producing this good within the country, but someone producing that good outside the country is able to sell the same good at half the price. Collins was talking about, that easy way of, it is easier to make 200 shillings in Nairobi than it is to make in a rural area. I suddenly got an answer to that question. You see, like I was explaining that vegetable conundrum before, yeah, like before hiyo chakula unakula ikufikia kwa meza mali imetoka, yeah, like the number of hands and profits that have been made from that vegetable before it gets to your hand is way too high, such that its price is jacked up. Because imagine if the vegetables, the carrots, the onions, the cabbages we get on Apple, your local kibanda, imagine they come directly from the farm. The price will not be that. But if there are 5 to 7 guys between you and the farmer, and each person is making a profit before that product gets to you, of course the price is bound to go higher. And I think that is why the people, these seekers of opportunities, come to Nairobi. Of course, you'll find an opportunity. Someone will go to Gikomba, buy clothes, come sell to another person, and that person will buy those clothes and go sell to another person. Yeah, it is okay. There's a lot of money circulating. Yeah, but it is at the expense of the consumer. Yeah, so I would dare to say that part of the reason, the commodities we produce locally are a bit expensive is because there are a lot of hands between the people producing the commodities and the consumer. Yeah, and yes, those are business opportunities, but I don't know how to look at that. But if those hands can be used,
okay, you guys are being scholarly, academic, and it's okay. But attitude flani, it has these people. I don't know. Today, people are Western. They will have to forgive. Okay, let me just use Rift Valley people now. I was using Western because there are people I know more. Now, you find Kipto, Arab, somebody has come to Nairobi for whatever particular reason. Okay? And then they go back to their shags or to their place where they're rural now. That person is totally different. The attitude that they have towards the other people is different. And leave alone that. Actually, look at the other side. Unapata sasa Kimani, because you came from the base ya Mawaru, you go back there, you don't even want to be associated with it. You don't. There's a different attitude. Alafu hawa watu huko wanakuona guy. Hata I'm sure maybe somebody is calling you ule anko wa Nairobi, ule anko wa Nairobi, kitu kayo. You see, what the attitude with this, and it doesn't make sense. You might find somebody relocated to Nairobi or whatever urban area, and ile shida wanakula, my friend, it's just on the top notch.
Yeah, I get you on the point of attitude, but I think that is tied to an individual. It's not. You should not make a generalization of it. And then again, when you leave the village, people have very high expectations of you. So if you were to come back and tell them, Nairobi ni shamba la mawe, unakula shida, I think they will be very disappointed. So you have to uphold standards which you are not at. But that's tied to the individual, not moving from a rural to an urban area.
There's a friend of mine. Let me. Somebody from the Goto. He went back and was telling me, unaishije unakaje kwa nyumba ila wifi. You get. And so the person who is they are telling is their own place. Like wow. So Viruka, and you find I do understand by the, but there's some reason in it. There's some things you wonder, by the way. If you get, in the where I come from, they normally say the person who does not go, same he doesn't travel, only says is the mother who knows how to cook. So I think here in a later exposure, some sort of exposure, somebody is exposed, and yeah, they are a little bit, exposed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. There is exposure anyway. So when I was talking about fascination about moving to to Nairobi during my first point, of course it was saying it on a light note, but I wanted to point out that yes, people come to Nairobi for different reasons, but I believe among the reasons that hold them to stay here is actually fascination. Honestly, I think people are fascinated by the life here in Nairobi. Of course, what sherehe, I think it slaps better around Nairobi. I would not know that, but I would think it does slap better around Nairobi. Recreation services, also health, education, uh, all those are aspects of fascination and choice and preference.
Lakini yeah, Kimani, it is true. Ni ukweli. You Abu, look at it, or you'll do this year. We normally go. Most of the people in Nairobi go back home during the Christmas holiday. Wanaendaga on 25th, they're at home. 26th, they relax. 27th, they are going back to Nairobi. Why? Wanataka kurukia mwaka wapi? Tao.
Nairobi.
Yes.
Yeah, it is true. But it is true. Sherehe za sherehe za town, they are a little bit.
Yes,
You get?
kautoto fulani yenye they don't have a very specific name that grows out of fascination. That's what I was talking about, fascination. People are very fascinated by living in
And I'm sure that little kid wenye wako huko tu wakisikia huyo mzee amerudi juu ndiye arukie mwaka huko or because of something wanakuwa fascinated, wanasema hey, by the way, I think I will one day want to go to this Nairobi so that I can feel or know what people are feeling or know what people know or do what they do. Not because that they are coming to find greener pastures or don't know they are coming to school.
Yeah, I understand that because I think the time I was asking both of you. I think we were walking in Githurai, if I'm not wrong, and I was wondering to myself, or rather we were wondering among ourselves, like, have you asked yourself? I'm giving the example of Githurai because I think it's the most crowded place I've been to. So have you ever asked yourself, everyone mwenye ako huko, I once had someone saying, kila mtu mwenye ako huko, there is something they usually take home, right? Yeah, like every person who has a small stall, regardless of the size, is taking something home. Yeah, and I usually just wonder. Yes, I agree, everyone is taking something home, but at what expense is that having on the way we perceive things and the way we we think about things? Because like you're saying, that kid who is seeing their elder brother coming from Nairobi and looking all fancy, and I want to imagine, I want the kids born and raised within this migration. People have migrated, yeah. People born within Nairobi, yeah, and finding that certain ways of certain things are done in a certain way. Yeah, food is accessed in this way, opportunities are accessed in this way. I think if we continue that trajectory at some point, people will forget the aspect of production of food. I'm insisting on food production because lazima kila mtu akule. That is a fact, yeah. So in as much as people want to chase opportunities and they're looking for greener pastures, there has to be that one person who is doing that for everyone. And I want to say this, that maybe in the next 20 years, I think the richest people will be people who will be doing agriculture. I like to hear colleagues comment about that because that fascination that draws. I don't know how much. I don't know what those kids who are born in town, whether they have fascination of going to their rural areas. Yeah, like it is a reverse case. The one born in the rural areas, they are fascinated about going to town. I wonder whether the ones born in urban areas are fascinated.
I before Collins comes in, I think it varies. You find some of them, they don't want to go even to visit their grandmother. Unasikia ati, they don't want to go to that place where they, choi iko nje. Or the lifestyle we shall go. They don't want, it's tiresome. But also there are people who are really fascinated. They want to go to their grandmother's places. They want to go back to the rural areas so they can just have some good time. Because me remember, hey, going to the grandmother's, it was a big thing. It was a good thing to experience. It was a good time, especially with the cousins and all that. So I think it varies. But I've also seen today on the news that President Ruto has said that by 2027, most probably, I mean, the next 10 years, what is the place called? Kibera will not be a slum anymore, it might be an estate. And it just, okay, Kimani, si hivyo vile unaifikiria. Now, I wanted to bring it from your point.
Yes.
We have been asking ourselves this question so many times. You go to a place and you look at the kind of living that people are living in these urban areas. The quality of life is so pathetic, and compared to somebody who's living somewhere, even maybe let's say Mandera, in the rural areas of Mandera. Unaangalia, baby, this person living in a shack, and their quality of life is so bad, even despite the fact that they're in an urban area. But one of the questions inakwanga, kwani umesikia, I think Emmanuel the one was asking, kwani hawa watu wanaanga kwao, I don't know if one of the ways that this government is going to help Kibera not to be a slum anymore is to maybe, I don't know if they are going to promote now the vice versa of what you're talking about. Now it will be urban rural migration. I don't know if they're going to encourage that. I don't know if that is going to happen in this country. But also, it just in a way, I normally want to know if somebody is really suffering in Nairobi. Wanasema Nairobi si akina mtu, but it varies. There are people who this is all that they know. Why don't they go back? Mbona watakangi kurudi? Maybe it's Murang'a, Siaya, name them, all the rural areas in Kenya.
Yeah, I get you. And I'd like to answer Chris first. Chris, you raised a point of why do we import food at such cheap prices? I don't think it's down to them being subsistence farmers, but it's down to them being very large scale farmers. For example, import maize from Brazil, and I don't think they do farming on smallhold farming. They do very mechanized farming on very large tracts of land, and they get economies of scale. If I were to farm an acre, and if you were to farm an acre and I was to farm 20, obviously the cost will be cheaper for me because I'm planting a larger area, so my investment is spread over a larger area. Then again, you said people are suffering in Nairobi, but they don't want to go to their villages. And I know it's true, it's partly true, but I'd also like to tell you that life in the village is not easy. You throw that term around loosely, but if you were to sit with someone and ask them about the quality of life in the village, it's not easy, as you've said. Hawana Wi-Fi.
It is not easy. It is not easy, but if you compare it with not urban area as a whole, but some places you look, I think if this person would have been in a rural setup, maybe it would have been easier.
Yeah, I'd like to answer that question. I was getting to that point. It's only easier if you look at it in terms of food security. But if you look at it in terms of, say, healthcare, it's not easy. To go to a hospital, you have to travel for kilometers to go to that hospital. In terms of education, it's not easy. I don't think, Chris, you went to high school in Kinangop. And that is not down to Kinangop being a bad area. It's down to finding better opportunities elsewhere. You look at government services, for instance. How many days will it take you to get a passport in Kinangop? How many days will it take me to get a passport in Shamahoho? How many days will it take you to get a passport in Gobet? So, and human beings are creatures of comfort. They like to go where life is simpler. So in certain aspects, life in rural areas might be easier, but if you look at us in an urban setup, life is easier for us in certain ways. In terms of access to government services, access to employment, and I think that's what drives us to stay within this city, even though life might be hard. We keep on pushing, hoping that tomorrow will offer us better prospects.
I can see the overall show anasema, I am here listening, thank you. And also you see Natasha Manda saying that the way life is fast paced in urban areas, the diversity of culture, knowledge and resources keep young person on toes. Always seeking, always thinking of ways of improvement compared to the rural. Unataka kuniambia Chris, uko in the land of Mawaru, you cannot be thinking, you can't think.
You're asking that question, and I also want to respond. It's sort of tied to what the last point Collins has said, yes, it is much easier to access government services in Nairobi than it is, or in an urban area than it is to access them at a rural area. But I think the more fundamental.
Okay, Chris. Before
Yeah,
we go there,
I'm getting there. But the fundamental question is, where does a person living in? Does the person living in a rural area require a passport in the first place? Yeah. And do they require a passport in the first place? I'm not asking that from a point of malice, by the way. I'm not asking that from a point of malice. I'm asking that from a point of priority. Yeah, because if at all if that person who is living in the urban area is sort of incapable of meeting the very basic needs, yeah, and those basic needs, at least one of them, food, and can almost say shelter, can be guaranteed either in the rural area, then priority would dictate that that person should go back to rural areas. First of all, meet the basic needs, and then when they do that, then they can afford to go and look for the opportunity, because you don't look for the opportunity when you're struggling to meet the basic needs. But at the same time, I once asked that question to someone, like, watu hawananga kwao, and they told, actually it was my mom, and akaniambia, hapo ndio kwao, like that person has been born and their generations have been born in that place, so they literally have no place to go back to. And I think that's sad, because that person is sort of condemning that life. And I don't know, it's a difficult discussion. But going back to the original point, priorities, because if someone can meet their basic needs at one place and not meet them at the other, it would make more sense for them to first of all go and meet their basic needs at the place that they're going to meet them. I don't know how colleagues will respond to that.
Yeah, I've heard you, but at the end of the day, it's not only food you require to live. I believe these people would like to start families, and trying to support a family through subsistence farming, it's next to impossible if you're speaking realistically. So apart from doing that agriculture, they'll have to find something else to do, and that something else that could be done is done in urban areas. Yeah, that will be my response to you. It's not only tied to food, but also having money to do other things in life, because they say it's not now that you're full that other problems disappear. There are still other bills you'll have to pay. You have to pay fees, for instance. If you have kids, you'll have to construct your house, for instance. You have to
but
pay
me,
water bills.
me, I'm of the idea. Okay, not. I think sometimes in rural areas you have some security. Kama Collins. Okay, I don't need only food to survive. Somebody said also that but the word of God. But you see, you need also these other things that will be able to accompany that. However, in the rural areas, unapata huyo msee already ako na food security. Maybe they have some food there that they are planting, or they are farming. Ako na nyumba yake, hata kama ni ya mabati ama ni ya mbao, hakuna rent analipa maybe, so this is not so priority yake ni gani? Maybe ni kutafuta school fees, just for example. So you look at this person, then who is a bit better, but okay, the other areas you find it is easier. Then it is still easier, because you still wonder. I've been to some rural areas, and you wonder, why are these people suffering? They are suffering, and yet they have land they can till. This land they can be able to do better, but they are still suffering and languishing in poverty. So I think it also varies with whatever kind of place that this rural area or this urban area is. But huyo msee mwenye ako, this person who's in huko, let's say Ushago, I think they are secure. I don't think, for example, let me use an example. Like, I don't think my grandmother has stress that analipa rent every month. She does not even know what to pay rent means. In terms of food security, that's done. But we are paying rent, we are paying even takataka, we are paying Wi-Fi. I don't know who said Wi-Fi is a basic need. We are paying for literally everything apart from air. Collins, sometimes you buy vegetables, nyanya mbili ni 50 bob. You wonder how we got to that part. Kuna wengine they are even paying for choo. You get the security, and some people in some rural areas, choo si shida.
Yeah, I get you. And we've spoken about this before. And I think you have goals in life. And I don't think the only goal you have in life is having food on your table. You have goals far much greater than having that food on your table. There are things you look up to. There are things you want to achieve in life. So yes, you could go to the rural area and have food security, but at the expense of not achieving your goals in life. So if that's a risk you're willing to take, it's up to you. But I don't think for a lot of us, having food is it's a huge priority, yes, but you have other things in life you're looking forward to. And to get these opportunities, I still believe we have to get out of our villages and search for opportunities within urban areas.
Yeah, so you have heard from Collins, if you are from Emmanuelia, there is no opportunity. Now, Natasha Amanda is saying that sometimes staying in urban areas is a matter of what the town offers you. So, I don't know, all of you are in Nairobi. What the town offers you, what is the town offering you apart from opportunity? Okay, obviously in Nairobi, and basically like the larger East Africa, Nairobi is the place where people are coming for opportunities. The land is the land of opportunities. But Upper Natashana is telling us that it's also a matter of what the town offers you. Kemani.
Yeah, I think whatever Natasha is saying is ties to what Quality is saying, because I really get what Quality is saying about the opportunities. That is very true, because if at all someone is leaving their rural area to come for an opportunity, and they have their mindset on an actual opportunity that they want to pursue, then it is likely that person is going to succeed. But I like to think that a larger proportion of people moving do not actually have set ideas of what they're coming to do. They're simply coming to try out their luck. And I was listening to. I hate that every time I have to talk about almost everything, anything, I have to mention this guy. I was
Elon
listening
Musk.
to Elon Musk the other day, and he
I
was
was
saying
I was even wondering when you are going to mask the place up.
he was saying he was talking about the way that young people have been sort of tuned to try and make people buy things rather than make them. Yeah, and actually I was reading a book by someone else. Yeah, who was talking about the same thing. Like majority of youth are trying to make people click on ads on YouTube to sell this and that product, but a very small percentage of them want to actually make that product and avail it to the market. Yeah, like everyone is rushing to sell something to the next person. Yeah, but not enough people are trying to make those things. So yes, if Collins, if someone is coming to a city with an idea to to actually increase production of something rather than trying to sell it like everyone else is trying to do, then the goals of that person, that person is justified to come to the city. But if at all someone is coming to just try their luck, they're very likely to end up in a situation where they're caught between making money to simply meet their needs, and there is no more money left in the pocket. Yeah. So I do not know I do not know where that distinction has to be drawn between coming to the city with looking for an opportunity, or rather with an opportunity in mind, not looking for an opportunity, with an opportunity in mind. Yeah, and coming to the city to try your luck. Yeah. Well, I don't know how that those two can be differentiated, because I think it is within that confusion that people get trapped in the life of the city. And saying that, I remember this funny story someone was telling me the other day. So it is about a grandmother who visited his son, who is a bishop in town apparently. So when the shosho akiingia kwa nyumba, akauliza wapi where is the toilet, and akaonyeshwa room ilikuwa ndani ya nyumba. Yeah, I thought the shosho is very confused because she does not understand why there is a toilet in the house, because her understanding is hiyo pit imechimbwa ndani ya nyumba. Yeah, so he is there asking the whole family, you guys go to the toilet in the house, eh? Kijana,
No,
go to the like, even you the bishop. Yeah. So when you're talking about, when you're talking about priorities and, food not being, priorities, I think you're mentioning something about, yes, food is a priority, but people have other things to do. I think it boils down to the definition of what comfort is. Yeah. Because if that person, when you're Coco Shags, that show their comfort is walking out, seeing their chickens, having food and shelter, and the local medicine. Okay, let me not say medicine person. The local hospital, yeah, perhaps it's a few miles there. We have to define what comfort is before we can try to impose comfort on people. Yeah. But if you go down that line, I do not know where that ends, because
You see,
the definition of comfort is quite.
Kimani, we all know about the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That at the bottom there of that pyramid, it's these basic essential things like food. Yes. In order for you now, Collins, and the people who are saying that, yeah, it's good and the dreams are there, that sometimes our dreams are big that they cannot be contained in the rural areas. For example, I'm sure here that whatever, even right now, whatever we are doing, we couldn't have done it in the rural areas because of the circumstances that our rural areas are in. But we have to understand that when we have the food security and all of these things are attained, then we can be able to do other things. So I'm sure mimi naiona hivi, I'm looking at like an opportunity. If then these people in the rural areas can be able to make sure that these basic things are there, like food, they have them in mass, then they can now start trying to make also those rural areas a destination areas. Maybe there an opportunity. I don't know if I don't like keep mentioning the government, but such kind of things that should be looked, and maybe instead of just bringing people into the city, why how was this city made? It means then therefore those other places can be made cities. They can be made destination areas where people are going to look for opportunities and see their dreams coming true. Because as it has gotten to a point in this country, even that dream cannot be gotten in Nairobi. Whether you are coming from Odhaya, you are coming from Turkana, you are coming, unasikia they're saying even Nairobi is not enough. So they have to go like outside the country. And then at the end of the day, we have brain drain. And then we don't grow. Sasa, we'll always be having this discussion, always, that you're complaining our rural areas are bad. Then who is supposed to make these places? Maybe in the words of JF Kennedy, don't ask what your country can do for you. Maybe you ask what you can do for your country. Collins, don't say what Manyulia cannot do for you. Shamahoho, ama mtu wa Mawaru. Ask yourself what you can do for that place.
Yeah, I get both of your points, and I think all of you are driving to basically two things: that people coming out from villages reduces agricultural production, and they come to suffer in the city. I think we suffer in the city not because the city is a bad place, but the system is not ready to accommodate us at the moment. But if we are trying to grow a country, and if you look at economic models, some AMA theories, for instance, you realize that labor has to be shifted from the agricultural sector to the industrial sector for a country to grow. Taking a look at history, for instance, if you look at Britain, say 200 years ago, they were subsistence farmers. But once they started consolidating their land and farming in large scale, they produced a surplus, which then led to creation of industries. And you can see the position they are at today. So, and if you look at some of the poorest countries in the world, you'll realize that a majority of their populations stay in rural areas. So they could stay in rural areas, do subsistence farming, but that is not going to grow our economy. If me moving from my rural area is going to relieve pressure on the land so that we can consolidate these pieces of land and do large scale agriculture, that will solve our food problem, which will be the first issue you are raising about reduced food production. And then the second issue is now down to the government. That's not down to us. Providing systems in which people coming to urban areas can get employment, and that will I think, solve the problem in its entirety. But I don't think rural to urban migration is a bad thing at all, because I believe all of us are migrants. We migrated into the city, and we've seen how life in Nairobi is. It challenges you to think. If you are to have this same conversation with people from the village, if you are to go back to the village and try to have conversation with your friends, you realize that staying in the city changes the way you think. You become proactive. You become challenged to try and get a living in every possible way. So, rural to urban migration, from my point of view, still remains a very positive thing if at all we want to grow the economy of our country.
Yeah, so Kemani, I've heard you are one of the people who here by bus, and when elections comes, wanatoroka phew, so let us hear your final comments as we wrap up.
So my final comments are on this topic. Revolve around the issue of opportunity, preference, what I like to call sustainability. Yeah. Yes, there are opportunities in urban areas, but the truth is they're not there for everyone. Two, the issue of sustainability, like these people who are coming to town, how sustainable is the current trajectory of rural urban migration and the rate of unemployment? How sustainable is it in the next few years? And of course, preferences. Yeah, the definition of what comfort is. Yeah, of course, that boils down. It goes down to every person what their definition of comfort is. But if Maslow's definition is to be used, then there are a lot of basic needs that are not being met in the urban areas. Not to say that that rural urban migration is bad. I'm simply trying to look for maybe I would suggest something of sort of a control, yeah, such that the number of people who are coming here, like a social policy, let me call it a social policy, such that people are protected from themselves, yeah, from causing their own, social damages and the damages to their generations. And of course, lastly, I want to talk about that issue I was talking about of production. Yeah, you see, everyone is talking about unemployment there, unemployment there. The government saying it is going to create employment. Yeah, employment simply comes from juggling about the factors of production. Yeah, your employment, majority of employment is created in producing a good or producing a service. Yeah, so if at all there are not enough goods and services being provided, then there will be no employment. Yeah, I think we're having a discussion with Collins, and we're talking about electronics. Like a lot of them are imported. Yeah, you'll find that we import as simple things as bulbs, switches, mouse, like laptop, not the other mouse. Yeah, like the more the imports that we are having, that means the more the jobs you are losing in producing the things that we need to produce. Yeah, so as long as we are importing, when importing a finished product, we're importing labor. Yeah, so if we can have more ways of producing goods locally, then there'll be less employment, and the opportunity seekers who are coming to the urban areas, they can all be accommodated in a rather good way. Yeah, some of my final comments.
In this country we import chicken. I don't know whether we are there's a line of not importing mouse or mice. So since Shruka, if I hear they are importing that, if they are importing things like bulb. Anyway, so that has been our conversation tonight. We have just been talking about issues of rural urban migration and seeing the issues. We have had issues of agriculture, issues of people looking for better opportunities to further their dreams and all that. So it has been a nice conversation. I want to thank everybody who has joined us live and everybody who will watch this later. I want to wish you a good night and remind you that our broadcast still continues. We have State of the Continent and African Corner airing Sunday and Wednesday, respectively. My name is Mutavio Shirawanyaga. Dayo. Good night.